From anxiously waiting for details of the game's plot to the final launch date driving people crazy with excitement, here are the biggest questions fans have for Bethesda's Starfield. Everyone's been wondering exactly what Starfield is actually about. Well, in classic Bethesda RPG fashion, you'll be playing as a custom character whom you'll be able to stylize with their standard character creation suite. On top of that, you'll have choices for the backstory you want to have, though the only aspect of your character that'll be locked in is their membership with the Constellation in the beginning.
Allocating auxiliary reactor power. System checks are green across the board. Grav jump commencing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Once you're done with all that, your character will enter the settled systems, a 50 light-year wide chunk of the galaxy that humans have made their home, expanding far beyond our solar system. In fact, the solar system we live in is known as the Old Neighborhood in the Starfield universe, and humans have had to abandon Earth altogether. The systems have just come out of a war between the United Colonies and the Freestar Collective, so an uneasy peace reigns. At this point, Bethesda hasn't revealed what you'll be doing against this backdrop, but you won't be surprised to know that the internet has been hard at work theorizing about the lore of the game. Some theories believe Earth was devastated by war, or maybe aliens invaded. But personally, I'm putting my money on climate change. Only Bethesda knows the truth for now. But what we do know is that 50 light years is a massive region, and there's a lot of planets out there that you'll get to explore. Todd Howard boasted that there are 1,000 planets that you can check out, and yeah, a lot of it is procedurally generated, but the game also has the most handcrafted content that Bethesda has ever created. Of the 1,000 planets, about 10% of them will have human life, which means more story opportunities with cool characters. This wouldn't be a Bethesda game without faction rivalries, though. The United Colonies are basically the NCR, but with hippies, as they have the largest military and political establishment, and their goal is to bring their vision of peace to the systems. Their home field is New Atlantis, the biggest city Bethesda has ever created. When you pay them a visit, you'll see that these guys have gigantic ships that'd make Fallout's Brotherhood of Steel blush. In the other corner, we have the Freestar Collective, a band of space anarchists trying to overthrow the establishment. Besides these two, there are also smaller factions going about their business in the systems. One faction you'll be interacting with a lot is the Constellation, since you start as one of their members. Todd described these folks as NASA, Indiana Jones, and the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen all put together. I've got to say, that's a chaotic combo of concepts. There's also the Evil Space Corporation, Ryujin Industries, and the Crimson Fleet, who are space pirates. With such a variety of factions and locations, you might be wondering what kind of vibe Starfield will have, and Bethesda have apparently been calling this game's aesthetic NASA punk. That sounds pretty confusing when you first hear it, but here's what I can tell from the trailers they've put out so far. Starfield takes place in a sci-fi setting, so you can bet that there'll be aliens, crazy worlds, and technology that definitely doesn't exist yet. The punk aspect of its aesthetic comes from cyberpunk, a genre of science fiction that focuses on humanity's relationship with technology and the role capitalism has to play in how we interact with it. That's where the evil corporation and the pirates come in. See, cyberpunk worlds are often astoundingly colorful, and many of Starfield's planets will be dripping with bright visuals. One example of this is the city of Neon, a fishing dock that evolved into a dingy and rundown version of the Vegas Strip after the fishermen got into some psychedelic fish. These elements of the Starfield universe will be balanced by the NASA-ness, which means that the science and space stuff in the game will be as realistic as possible. The spacecrafts of the game also look the way you'd expect them to in reality, and you'd even start believing they were legit if I slapped a SpaceX logo on any of them. The scale of the game is absolutely insane, and I'm sure that has some fans concerned. It's natural at this point for Bethesda to try make the biggest games they can, but Todd's vision is infamous for being bigger than the current tech can handle. Going all the way back to the Elder Scrolls 4, Bethesda's in-house Gamebryo engine was barely keeping up with the devs' ambitions, and though the company kept developing the engine, it was never enough for the kind of games they wanted to make. The company has a reputation for making glitchy or downright broken games at launch, and bug compilation videos are a tradition whenever a new Bethesda RPG comes out. But don't worry, folks, because this time they're planning on leaving no room for error. They've built a whole new engine from the ground up, one that's specifically designed to contain the massive sprawl of this game, and it's also being primed for the Elder Scrolls 6. From the gameplay footage we've seen, the visuals are drop-dead gorgeous, and it's running as smooth as butter. That's not all though, because Todd confirmed that the engine will have full mod support, which is half the reason everyone has been playing their older games for all these years. Speaking of gameplay, according to Howard himself, it's gonna be like Skyrim in space, which means you'll be wandering around the settled systems, switching between a third and first-person perspective, but that comparison goes deeper than just the basics. While the Fallout games had the same basic mechanics, they were way more story-driven, with plots that were introduced right at the start of the game sending you across the wastelands. In contrast, the Elder Scrolls games have overarching storylines, but the series doesn't place much importance on them. So the world-ending crises of Tamriel can usually wait for you to finish exploring the map, meeting all the different factions, and doing quests for them. On the other hand, you've got 1,000 planets in Starfield, and they aren't going to explore themselves. Apparently, when you're on the ground, the game feels like an evolution of the signature Bethesda gameplay. You'll be walking around, talking to NPCs, and getting into the odd scuffle here and there with fully customizable guns. Bethesda also noticed how much everyone loved the settlement building systems from both Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, so that mechanic will make its return in Starfield. But out of everything, the most exciting part that's got everyone drooling in anticipation is the spaceships. Heck, we've never driven a car in any of these RPGs, but Starfield is gonna put us right in the cockpit of some legit space-traversing vehicles. Traveling across the cosmos ain't easy, and you'll need the right wagon to get you through the stars, which is why the game has an insanely detailed system for customizing ships, from the colors and stickers you can put on the outside to the very layout of the ship itself. You can slap all kinds of parts on your ride to make it go faster, hit harder, and much more. Oh, and since there are pirates and other kinds of dangers out there, you'll need to lock and load to face them. Howard has described the combat as slow and methodical, comparing it to games like Faster Than Light and Mech Warrior, which might mean space combat will have you destroy your enemies while trying to keep your own ship intact as it takes fire. This tracks with the game's hard sci-fi approach, where the game promises to be fun, but at the same time, everyone must submit to the cold and unfeeling laws of physics. So now the biggest question of all, when can you actually play it? Well, it won't be long now. The game releases on PC and current-gen Xboxes on September 6th. If you're on PC, you can pick up the game on Steam for $70. Or even better, it'll be available on Game Pass from day one. Game Pass subscribers can wait until the clock ticks over to September 6th, and they'll be off to space. Game Pass Ultimate will let you play across both PC and Xbox, which is just another reason you should probably subscribe. Unfortunately, due to Bethesda's acquisition by Microsoft, PlayStation is missing out on their latest RPG epic altogether. So, from the final launch date driving people crazy in excitement to anxiously waiting for details of the game's plot, those were the biggest questions fans had for Bethesda's Starfield.
Hey, come on, come on. Okay, take it easy. You were out cold. No physical damage. Mentally, the jury's still...